morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Thursday, the 24th day of May, year of our Lord 2012. Welcome to the John Moore Show. Well, we do have some interesting earth change headlines at stanadeo.com. We have my friend Tim Spencer patiently waiting in the green room. So let's just jump right in there. Going over across the Pacific Ocean to New Zealand, creeping earthquakes rumble New Zealand. Still across the Pacific, Japanese earthquake aftershock tally at 5,000 plus. There's been more than 5,000 earthquakes in Japan since the one that happened there and took out Fukushima a year ago. Going to South Carolina, 9th earthquake in 7 months hit South Carolina. Of course, South Carolina has always been known to be a seismically neutral area. Going back across the Pacific Ocean, 6.1 earthquake strikes off the coast of Japan. Then we have a headline that states, research finds world's oceans plasticized and trashed. Going to the Pacific Northwest, tsunami debris on the Oregon coast. And an interesting headline near to my heart, Planet X, new evidence of unseen planet solar systems. I just say Brazilian astronomer, which we expected we would start seeing the amateurs in the southern hemisphere start to see this object at some point. Maybe we're at that point. Interesting thing here on Stan's website also. Canary Island landslide tsunami simulation. That's a video. I think that's probably worth looking at. We do have my friend Tim Spencer patiently waiting. Tim is a rancher, father, a husband, a grandfather, the proprietor of the excellent website ruralsurvival.info, and of course a veteran of the U.S. Navy Submarine Corps. And Tim Spencer is supposed to be, what, 92 degrees today, I believe?
That's true. Clear sky, bright sun, and hot.
Well, this would be about what I would expect the first week of July, not the last week of May.
I agree. The weather's crazy, John. It's all there is to it. It cannot be predicted anymore.
Of course, what do we have, 94 degrees in March one day?
One day.
One day.
And I had to have my heavy jacket out on one morning in March, so that's the end of March.
I know. It is truly, truly strange. Well, this report coming out of Brazil from this amateur astronomer, well, I'm not sure if he's amateur or not. He might be professional. But at some point, we've been expecting astronomers in the southern hemisphere to, and this would be the time of year, by the way, because of the nature of the 10th planet and the ability to see it. This would be the time of year that I would start expecting, if there was going to happen, amateur or any kind of astronomer in the southern hemisphere to start seeing the 10th planet. And we might be at that point. I guess we'll see, won't we?
Yes, we will. Now, something very interesting I've noticed here just in the past week or so, the mainstream media, the powers that be, are starting to really push this idea of rogue planets, planets that are not connected to any solar system. They're really starting to push this.
Right.
In other words, what my feeling is, cover for the fact that when, if Planet X does do damage, cover for the fact that, we didn't know it was coming. We had no way of knowing it was coming, that kind of excuse.
Well, it could go a different direction, saying, well, this is kind of an expected thing. It's no big deal. Go back to watching baseball.
Right, exactly. It could go either way. You're absolutely correct.
Well, I guess we'll see. The whole concept of action at a distance, it's in our face, especially, I know you grew up not far from the ocean there in Florida.
Yes, I did.
The whole concept of action at a distance seems to befuddle people until they come to realize, and I point out to them that the moon does this to our Earth. Every 12 hours, our moon, which is a fairly small rock, 250,000 miles away, manages to make all the oceans on the planet go up for 12 hours and down for 12 hours.
Right. When the moon's straight above your head, it's high tide. When it's at the horizon, it's low tide.
Precisely. Point being, the concept is right in our face all the time, and people seem to have some difficulty understanding that a very large object, 4 to 5 times the size of Earth, could have impact on our planet while still being a million or more miles away.
Yeah.
It is. It's fascinating to see the response of people, despite this evidence that's right in front of our face all the time.
I agree completely. You know, I absolutely agree. Yeah, gravitation from this planetoid body, you know, if and when it comes by, there's no way that it won't have significant effects on our planet. There's absolutely no way it won't.
Right.
You know,
right.
if it passes between the Earth and the Sun, there's going to be effects.
Absolutely. And they won't be just gravity. Gravity by itself will be dramatic, but there'll be electrical interaction as well, won't there?
I believe there will be, yes.
Professor McCanney has spent a big chunk of his adult life writing and studying the electrical nature of our universe, which NASA still, even in 2012, NASA still claims that outer space is electrically neutral, despite all the evidence to the contrary. Just like our bodies, all human beings, all living creatures are electrical in nature and chemical second. Now, I grew up being told by my teachers that we were just 150 or so pounds of chemicals mixed together, that when the right chemicals are in close proximity, you have a human being.
Mm-hmm. I remember thinking that now it's been proven, you know, that there's a constant voltage in the human body. Now, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn or speaking incorrectly.
I don't know.
It was about 200 volts.
Well,
I could be wrong, but I believe that it might have been milliamps or something like that. I don't know what it is.
Well, I don't recall what the voltage and amperage is, but you're right, Tim. All living creatures have an electrical charge that's measurable, and it's just the nature of all living creatures, is the electrical nature of these creatures, including human beings. Anyway, Tim, I've got your website here in front of me, ruralsurvival.info. You're still looking for authors, aren't you?
Oh, yes, we are looking for authors, and we've received a new author recently, Miss Victoria Columbus, who is a very prolific writer and is writing excellent news. In fact, when her article was submitted to beforeitsnews.com under the category of self-sufficiency, it was number 6 for several days.
Outstanding.
In popularity. Also, we're going to be doing a redesign of ruralsurvival.info. I've had several, not complaints, but suggestions that many of the things on ruralsurvival.info are too hard to find. So we are going to, hopefully by this time next week, have a complete redesign of the site up. We're going to try to maintain the look and feel, but we're going to try to make information easier to find. And I should mention, you are my webmaster, and I do thank you for posting the TV miniseries America on my website, because it has been difficult for people to find it and watch it. Did I tell you I found out what the precipitating event was for the miniseries America? No, Well, it was a mystery to me for 20 plus years, because the miniseries didn't say what it was. Well, it was an EMP event. Okay, EMP, understood. And I think that's very significant, because it makes perfect sense that it would bring the United States to its knees and allow a foreign invading army to basically come in and take over. The more I'm learning about EMP, the more I know there is to find out. But I'm finding out that testing done on motor vehicles shows that most motor vehicles, most of the time, if they're not running, if they're not turned on when the EMP hits, the effects, if any, are going to be minimal, and the vehicle should start right up and run pretty much normally. Correct. That was, I think you're referring to a DoD test conducted in 2009. It probably was the same one, right? Yeah, and that is what they found out. 80% then, in 2009, over 80% of new vehicles started right up, if they were off when the EMP was detonated. It still brings us back to the central focus of the effects of electromagnetic pulse, which is the power grid itself. And these same kinds of tests confirm that the large transformers
which are no longer made in this country, by the way, and under normal conditions take up to a year to order and take delivery on, that those are going to be wiped out.
Absolutely. You see, that's the whole thing. Our cars might run, but unless we've got a store of gasoline with some kind of stabilizer in it, the cars running ain't going to help much when they run out of gasoline.
That's right. That's right. Plus, losing electricity means losing refrigeration, losing much of our communications, not necessarily all of it. So it will cause massive disruptions and massive loss of life. It's just due to the power grid being down and losing refrigeration and so forth. Where a lot of medications have to be refrigerated, and a lot of medications they don't have large stocks of them, but they're manufactured on an as-needed basis. People who require refrigerated insulin to stay alive, well, they'll be, when the insulin runs out, they're going to be dead. I mean, that's basically the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and unfortunately, it'll be a long, slow death. That's the bad part. You don't die tomorrow because you didn't take insulin today.
Right. It is a slow, miserable, painful death, and it is. Hopefully, we'll be able to avoid that tragedy. But people who make their living studying the power grids in these matters are very concerned that a nationwide power outage could happen in the next 3 years.
Well, yeah, it could easily, and the sun could even do it. It doesn't have to be an act of war. And my biggest fear, and not really a fear, but concern, is that our system to the grocery stores is going to go down, plain and simple. Most people don't realize major grocery stores usually have a 36 to 48 hour supply of the products they vend, and when they're gone, that's it.
Well, in fact,
and these stores we refuse to even sell during a power outage because their computers are down. They won't take cash. They have, so I don't know.
Exactly. Well, the older grocery stores they had when you and I were boys, they were built different than they are now. The older grocery stores, they had a large area at the rear of the store which was mounted to a small warehouse.
Right.
And the modern ones are built without that storage facility because they have what they call just-in-time delivery. And, so they're very limited in what they've got. You can now look at, I got a link there to the YouTube version of the TV miniseries America. If you haven't seen that, this was done in the 1980s. It caused a lot of controversy at the time, a tremendous lot of controversy at the time. We do have a link there to watch that. And of course, read my article. The Gulfstream has stopped, posted at my website as well. Looks like Tim in Connecticut. Go ahead, Tim.
I just wanted to make a quick comment on safeguarding your car in an EMP event. One thing you can do that would safeguard the electrical system, the computer system in your car, is if you disconnect the battery. See, when your battery's hooked up, you continuously have juice going through that computer in your car. When you take it off, and you disconnect the battery, it's not going to overload the system because there's no electricity going through that system.
This is Tim Spencer. I've got a question for you, since you seem very knowledgeable on this subject. Does grounding the vehicle frame to the ground accomplish anything, or does that make matters worse?
You know what? That might make matters worse because, your car's safe when you're driving in an electrical storm because it's not grounded because you have rubber tires.
Right.
So if you ground it, you're going to get a current going through the car and into the ground.
Understood.
Would in turn
your recommendation would be not to ground the vehicle.
Yeah, I wouldn't ground the vehicle, no, because it won't accept the charge. I don't believe it would accept a charge if it's not grounded, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Tim, we appreciate the heads up. That's very helpful advice.
Okay. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. And we got another caller here, Wedge. Good morning, Wedge.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the sun. I noticed, early last summer, that it seemed to be rising and setting really far north, and the twilight seemed really extended and long. I wake up early in the morning, and it seems like hours, an hour and a half before the sun actually comes up, it's getting light out, and I didn't notice that years before. Also, it seems to be rising and setting at an extreme angle.
Well, I've had other reports of this, and I haven't. I should follow up with Professor McCanny. He's the astrophysicist. Tim, you got any comment on what Wedge is saying?
Oh boy, do I ever!
Great.
As you know, my people are very perceptive. I have had literally tens, perhaps 100 people talk to me over the past few years about where the sun is rising, where it is setting, its angle in the sky. Your caller is certainly not the only one to notice it. There is a change. There is absolutely a change.
I looked all over the internet. I couldn't find anything. A couple YouTube amateur videos. That's about all I found about it.
Well, there is a change, sir.
Okay.
Well, I would think that NASA and the Naval Observatory would have very precise measurements of all these things.
But they don't want to talk about it, of course.
Obviously. Wedge, thank you for your calls.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.
Okay. Well, tomorrow we will be visiting with Ann Morrison, all things being equal. We'll talk about what's going on with earthquakes and volcanoes and Fukushima and weather-related events, get up to speed and all that. And then, of course, it'll be the weekend. So, Memorial Day weekend. That's it for today. That's it. You all be safe out there. Buy lots of ammunition. Never give up your guns. For those of you in occupied territory, the code words for the day is the ream of paper is blue. The ream of paper is blue. God bless America.